If someone broke into my house and told me that I'd like a game where you roleplay living in the Avengers Mansion for 50 hours and fight Hydra and demons in a turn-based tactical setting, I'd look them dead in the eyes and say,
You serious?
At the time of this review, I've put over 50 hours into it on the normal difficulty without the DLC, and I can easily see myself playing another 100 in the New Game Plus with DLC. Oh, and no major spoilers will be discussed in the video. Marvel's Midnight Suns is a turn-based tactical RPG with a card system that randomizes your attacks. Now you may be thinking, oh, well, who would want to play a game with Iron Man and Ghost Rider where you can't fly around and kill people with your powers? Well, dear viewer, the game has sort of accounted for this by making the combat some of the most enjoyable I've seen in the genre. There are a ridiculous number of attacks, all of which have unique animations and quite frankly feel extremely powerful. The sound design is very accommodating in this regard. Every hero feels unique to play, and out of the roster of 12, or 13 if you count your custom hero, I've only found that Wolverine could use a buff. From Iron Man, who blasts enemies around the map or fires a barrage of missiles at everything that moves, to Nico Minoru, who uses her staff to buff her teammates or, oddly enough, fire a blast at enemies that if it kills someone, continues to fire until it doesn't kill someone. That's actually one of my favorite moves in the game. Every character has a multitude of cards to choose from, but an 8-card limit, allowing for a vast selection of builds to make. Your custom hero has a light and dark system based on choices you make throughout the game which affect the cards you unlock, and has easily the biggest diversity of cards out of all characters. Do you want a healer that creates explosives to use against Hydra? You got it. You want a mind-bending specialist that makes enemies attack each other before using a massive area of effect attack killing everyone in the room? You can also do that! This combat system allows every character to not only be viable, but make you want to use them. Personally, I never would have used Magic or Blade, but their playstyles are just so darn fun. The combat arenas themselves aren't very unique in most cases, but I never noticed any repetition in that area. The environmental attacks are a blast to pull off, and the heroism system adds additional ways to destroy your enemies. Even an idea as simple as pushing your enemies into each other makes for such an enjoyable move, making you think strategically about your movements to beat the most enemies per turn. Tactical turn-based games aren't typically my type of game, so it's been a genuine shock for me to enjoy this as much as I have. One of my favorite team compositions is Captain Marvel and Captain America. I call them the Captains. My build relies on the best offense being a very good defense. I set up Captain America with a large block bar and taunt as many enemies in the room as possible before using a card that allows him to counter enemies' attacks. Then when the enemies come after him, he retaliates by beating the brakes off of everything that moves. Captain Marvel has a similar setup, but using her binary mode. She's extremely powerful, and what she lacks in good physical attack cards, she more than makes up from raw strength against her foes. Where the combat is about 25% of the game, the other 75% is the Abbey. A castle and its surrounding areas in a pocket dimension outside of space and time. Now this is surely a controversial statement. This might be one of my favorite hub worlds in any game. The Abbey is home to not only the Midnight Suns, but also the Avengers and a couple of mutants for the storyline. The dialogue here has been the subject of a lot of criticism, especially from critical reviews, but I'm not really sure why for a lot of it. Sure, there is a level of cringy dialogue, but I don't think it's anything worse than most of what comes out nowadays. The dialogue itself is pretty neat in a lot of cases, sometimes being references to past events in this world, or classic comic book crossovers between the characters. Even if it's impossible for certain referenced events to have taken place in the world, it's fun for the ones who've been around for decades. The folks writing this game had a tall order, and I think they did a very good job. As someone who actively read the comics before the MCU, I found the writing similar to those older comics, while also giving the best parts of the MCU dialogue.
Welcome to Tony's Scary Demon Cave. I'm Tony, and how may I assist you today?
Not every line is meant to be a joke, and extremely rarely is there a pause for the audience to laugh. The director of the game, Jake Solomon, had this to say in an interview. It was a lot of fun and a huge honor to write dialogue for these heroes, many of whom we grew up reading in the comics as kids. One of the great things we had going was that for Marvel's Midnight Suns, we have our own universe. That said, we still want to make sure longtime fans feel at home with our characterizations of the heroes. So there's a lot of thinking that goes into writing the dialogue where it works, whether you have been reading since forever, or if you've only seen a movie here and there. I think this is a great approach for these characters, as anyone can jump in with limited knowledge and even learn more about the characters if you wish. With over 65,000 lines of dialogue at launch, you could listen to these characters talk forever if you wanted to. One of my favorite lines in the game is during a low point for our heroes, and I don't think I was even supposed to listen to this line as I could just walk past to the war table. Peter Parker calls Mary Jane and asks her to go get Aunt May and get her out of New York for a few days. You can't hear Mary Jane's side of the conversation, but Peter is clearly shaken up and worried about both of them and wants them both safe in case things get worse. He tells her to bake some cookies as an excuse to go see her, and he tells MJ that he appreciates her doing that for him. Spider-Man is a really easy character to get the right characterization for, but it was appreciated that they wanted him to be concerned for his friends and family. Now, not all of the dialogue is perfect, and I skipped a fair few lines for brevity, as some of the writing feels redundant in places, but when it often gets it right, you'll be engrossed in a fun story that you won't regret experiencing.
That Parker kid has way too much energy. May as well put it to good use.
Thanks, Blade.
For what? Kid's annoying. You'd be doing me a favor by keeping him off my back. Do half vampires need sunblock? Can your fangs drain a cream-filled cake? If we bite each other, would we have the same powers? It never ends.
This isn't a story thing specifically, but I didn't know where else to put it. It warms my heart to see Robbie Reyes get some love in this game. He's not the best Ghost Rider, but he gets a fun little storyline in the game, and he's one of the strongest sons with some insanely overpowered cards. Back to the Abbey, though. The heroes live here and are led by your custom hero, the Hunter, or Huntress. And you can socialize with them by watching movies or lounging by the pool. And if you befriend them enough, every hero has their own upgrades just through friendship levels. You can spar with the other heroes to get combat enhancements or send them on missions and get cool rewards. Those missions also have the benefit of adding more story to the world of Midnight Suns, showing that your band of heroes aren't the only ones out there fighting. That's not all the Abbey has to offer though, as there's a pretty large hub outside of the Abbey, with its own storyline and secrets to uncover. It's actually really fun to just run around and explore it, and you can find all kinds of cool collectibles or upgrade materials. Like I said earlier, no major spoilers for the story because I've actually enjoyed the heck out of this game. The Avengers and the Midnight Suns have been thrown together to fight Lilith, the mother of demons, who has been resurrected by Hydra. You play as the child of Lilith and have to stop her from taking over the world. She takes control of classic heroes and villains throughout the story, and it's not a unique plot, but it works well for the game they're making. My personal favorite part of the story is how well character arcs are introduced and tied together with the rest of the cast. I was completely caught off guard by how well so much of it is connected, and you can tell that the writers tried very hard to connect this cast of misfits. A birthday party for one of the sons is a connecting point in the story that ties several character stories together, and I thought while they were building it, it would be boring, but it's probably one of my top 3 points of the game. They put a Bully Maguire reference in here.
Thought we wouldn't notice, but we did. I understood that reference.
Also, these voice actors are almost perfect for the characters, including Lyrica Okano as Nico Minoru, who played her in the Hulu Runaways TV show, Yuri Lowenthal reprising his role as this universe's Peter Parker, Steve Bloom as Wolverine, Fred Tatasciore as the Hulk, and Jennifer Hale as Lilith. The only two that I had an issue with were Matt Mercer as the male Hunter because some of the pronunciation was really off.
Who is a good girl? It is my Charlie girl.
And Laura Bailey as Magic, because I've heard her voice a million times before and the Russian accent didn't really work for me. Alright, I love that line for some reason and I've said it to myself a few times while laughing. And if you're the kind of person who cares at all about cosmetics, you're gonna adore this game. Every single character gets multiple costumes and palette swaps, some of which are just other characters from the Marvel Universe, and almost all of them can be earned by just playing the game. Even with my playtime, I still don't have all of the cosmetic options, and I don't know how long it'll be before I do. But I had a lot of fun playing around with the options here. And of course, on the monetization side of things, there are costumes you can unlock for every character with premium currency, and I despise this practice. They're all included in the Legendary Edition of the game, which is appreciated, but these should have just been in the game. Only 2 of the 24 additional costumes for the base game characters are ones I wouldn't use, which doesn't say much, but if you're interested, look them up before making your purchase. The Legendary Edition has been on a 60% discount in the United States multiple times across the year, and assuming the DLC isn't even worth playing, the base game and all of the costumes are worth full price in my opinion. I don't have any negatives to the gameplay whatsoever. I only had minor graphical bugs during my playthrough, but nothing that affected my enjoyment. One of the bugs that tends to happen is on the Baywatch-style walkouts before a mission. Sometimes a character will show up to battle in their underwear, which is just a little awkward for some and really awkward for others. I mean, I thought Peter Parker was trying to keep his identity a secret, but I think Logan would just show up like that. I think he's that kind of guy. Even though this game isn't my style at all, I found every single aspect of my playthrough to be more than sufficient in keeping me attached to the game until I finished the main and side stories as well as the Abbey storyline. I'll be playing the game again at the end of this year with all the DLC to get my final thoughts, but as a complete single player story, the base game gets a resounding approval from me. I played the game at launch and I thought it was a decently told story with fairly well written characters, but if you do play it, expect a little bit of cringe every now and then, and keep the skip button handy. One more thing I want to praise about Midnight Suns, and this has nothing to do with the gameplay, the trailers. I didn't know Firaxis was working on a Marvel game, and when I first saw it, it instantly sold me. I was like, wow, this looks great. I mean, the animation quality of these trailers is excellent. Every second, every frame of these trailers is perfect. I would kill for a movie in this style of animation. It is excellent. Even if you have no interest in playing the games whatsoever, I recommend you go and watch the announcement trailer and the Darkness Falls trailer, and if you're still interested, check out the launch trailer. All three of those trailers are excellent. The animation, the choreography, the sound quality, the sound mixing, everything comes together to be just perfect. One more thing, if you're interested in this game after anything I've talked about here, the game is currently on sale for 70% off of the Legendary Edition. $30 in the United States will get you all of the base game content and all of the DLC content and all of the costumes. I personally believe the base game is worth it at full price, so this is an absolute steal. I'd recommend it if you got the money. Last December, it definitely earned my Game of the Year award, and last year had Elden Ring and Shredder's Revenge. These are recommendations, by the way. If you picked this game up, please let me know your thoughts, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks so much for watching.